Hello everyone, I am Jasmeet Kaur. In the yesterday class, we talked about meaning and definition of psychology of Unit 1. In today's class, we are going to discuss about the second question of this unit, that is scope of psychology. Scope of psychology is also known as branches of psychology, fields of psychology, or areas of psychology. Now, before we are going to talk about this psychology or the scope of psychology or the areas of psychology, let me just remind a bit that how we define psychology. As we are already aware about this, is that in psychology we are going to study the behavior of different individuals and animals. So basically, it is the science of behavior, and behavior has different aspects. And if I want to study the human behavior, it has various angles. Now, to study various angles of human behavior, we need to study psychology in depth. And to do that, we need to study in accurate and detailed manner. For that, to make it easy for us, the psychologists, they divided psychology in different areas, and these branches of psychology are general psychology, animal and comparative psychology, child and developmental psychology, clinical, counseling, social, industrial, and organizational, and experimental and physiological psychology. So, now we will discuss all these branches one by one. The first branch of psychology is general psychology. See, general means normal. Psychology means study of behavior. So that means in this branch, see, it is clear from its name that in general psychology, we are going to study the behavior of the normal individuals and their general principles. So, in this general psychology branch, we are going to study general principles of psychology. That means the how a normal person behaves and their different qualities, how we can study them, how we can study their motor activities, cognitive activities, and emotional activities, and that is for specifically normal individual being. Right now, all of us are in a classroom and all of us are normal. So, if I want to study your behavior, then I am going to use general psychology. Even when we say that I am studying psychology, that means I simply want to say that I am studying general psychology. Even in your nursing subject, when we are studying about this subject psychology, we are going to study about general principles of a normal human being. And when we are going to study that, then this is also going to help you in your personal and professional life. The second branch of psychology is animal and comparative psychology. In animal and comparative psychology, we are going to see, it's clear from the name that in this branch we are going to study the behavior of animals, how different animals behaves, their reactions toward the conditions, how we can condition them according to their patterns. And in this branch we are also going to compare them and contrast them with other human beings. So basically, in this branch we are going to do three comparison. First comparison, how one individual is different from another individual. Second comparison, how one animal is different from another animal. Third comparison, how one human being is different from another animal. So basically, three comparison: human with human, animal with animal, human with animal. So in this branch we are going to discuss or study animals behavior and also going to do some comparisons. Then the third branch of psychology is child and developmental psychology. This branch is also called as genetic psychology. In this branch, we are going to study the behavior of small kids or children's, that is up to age 12. And in the developmental psychology, we are going to study how the human being grows and how it develops from birth to childhood to adolescent and maturity to old age. So basically, in this branch, we are going to study the different growth patterns of uh, a human being, and what are the normal patterns and abnormal patterns uh, of them according to their growth. It also studies the factors that influence the growth or the development of human behavior. Child psychology is also a part of developmental psychology, but in this child psychology, we are going to study the behavior of the children that is up to age 12. Then the next branch is clinical or abnormal psychology. Clinical psychology, see, it's clear from name, students. Clinical means that is related to the hospital setting. Uh, I'm just going to give you one example here. If you are normal, means you don't have any physical health issue, then why we are going to visit a doctor? Similarly, when our behavior is normal, then everything seems normal. But if there is some kind of abnormality that start arising in our behavior, or you can perceive someone that xyz person is suffering from some mental health issues, then we need to visit a clinical psychologist or a psychiatrist. Here the question is that nowadays most of the people, they are not able to clear, they are not able to understand the differences between a psychiatrist and a psychologist. So in this clinical psychology, first of all, we need to understand the difference between a psychiatrist and a psychologist. Whenever you are going to visit a mental hospital or a psychiatric hospital or a mental health clinic, there you can find out two main people, a psychiatrist and a psychologist. These two people have different functions. First of all, we need to understand the difference between these two. A clinical psychologist, this person holds PhD, masters in psychology, but on the other hand, a psychiatrist must have done with MD degree, MBBS with MD degree in psychiatry. It comes to when clinical psychologist, this person must has taken 4 to 5 years of postgraduate work in psychology department. On the other hand, a psychiatrist has gone through a medical school and then completed 3 to 4 years of residential training in psychiatry department. A clinical psychologist counsel the clients, diagnose the problem, and whatever therapy they have required for their treatment, clinical psychologists provide them the therapy sessions also. On the other hand, a psychiatrist prescribes medications on the basis of diagnosis done by a clinical psychologist. So, in the clinical or abnormal psychology, the person who wants to become a clinical psychologist, he must do his masters in clinical psychology so that he can work as a clinical psychologist. Basically, clinical psychology branch deals with the abnormal aspect of human behavior. The confusion between these two fields are that a psychiatrist and a psychologist, both of them can use psychotherapy, and they can use different techniques of psychotherapy so that they can relieve the symptoms of psychological disorders to help the patients to understand the reasons of their problems. Many clinical psychologists practice in state mental hospitals, community mental health centers, and similar agencies. Now the next branch is counseling psychology. The counseling psychology is the work of counseling psychology is quite similar to the clinical psychologist, but the main difference between these two is that a clinical psychologist deals with the people who are suffering from severe mental disorders like schizophrenia, obsessive compulsive disorder, or paranoia, or ADHD, like these kinds of severe mental disorders. On the other hand, a counseling psychologist deals with the people who are suffering from mild emotional and personal problems. Both of them, clinical psychologist and a counseling psychologist, they can use psychotherapy to help the patients. They can use some psychological tools to assess their problems. They Counseling psychologists are often consulted by the people who are having some questions related with the choice of career or education related program, or it may be that the persons they are suffering from some mild emotional or personal issues like breakup issues, family issues, or relationship issues, stress management, anger issues. Such kinds of problems are dealt by counseling psychologists. The next branch is social psychology. Now, psychology means study of behavior, social means related with the society. So, we spend our most of our life in the presence of the other people. Initially, it starts from the family, then neighborhood, then school, college, friends. Means we are living in the presence of other people, and we interact them. Sometime at when we are interacting them, it's very easy for us to deal with them in a positive way because we try to understand them. So in social psychology, basically we are going to cover a wide range of possible interest for the other people, and basically how we are going to perceive other people, how their perceptions affects us, how our perception affects them, how we can understand them in a better way, how they can understand us, so that we can just keep our point of view in front of them. So basically, in this social psychology branch, we are going to study the people who belong from the different cultural backgrounds, different beliefs, who have different kinds of attitudes, public opinions. We are going to understand according to them. Next branch is industrial and organizational psychology. Industrial. See, it's clear from the name industrial and organizational psychology. The person who wants to work in any organization or in any industry as a psychologist, this person must have completed his masters in industrial and organizational psychology. Nowadays, many companies use modern versions of such tests in hiring and placement programs. There are many public and private organizations who apply psychology for the problems of the employees, the managements, and employee training. For example, you are going for an interview in a company. First of all, there is a psychologist there. This person is going to assess your behaviors, that are the motor activities. Then this person is going to assess your cognitive activities, how you are going to manage, that is the emotional activities. And then they are going to select you on the basis of your behavioral patterns. Now when you are selected, there will be a training that will be arranged by the management system, and they are going to test check your attitudes and belief system. And if you are during the working in that company, you are going to face any problem, there will be some psychologists who are going to help you, who are going to provide you that how you can deal with such kind of situations. The next branch is experimental and physiological psychology. Experimental, it's clear from the name that we are going to conduct some experiments. Physiological means it's related with the functions of our body. Psychology means study of behavior. So basically, the experimental and physiological psychologists, they are going to work in the lab just to study different behavioral patterns, their practical problems, and just to understand their different fundamental processes like learning, memory, thinking, sensations, perception, emotions, etc. So, in simple words, if I'll say to you that to understand the relationship between your body and mind, that means how your body is connected with your mind and how your mind is connected with the body, we need to assess our behavioral patterns. So, to if I want to study myself and I want to conduct experiment on myself, I must work on experimental and physiological psychology. A number of experimental psychologists are concerned with the relationship and other biological activity of behavior. These are called as physiological psychologists. So basically, in this branch, experimental and physiological psychology, we are going to conduct experiments in the lab, or we are going to conduct a direct research so that we can understand the different fundamental processes of our behavioral, and so that we can understand the body and mind relationship in a better way. So, students, let me give a summary of today's topic, that was scope of psychology. Scope of psychology is also called as branches of psychology, areas of psychology, or different fields of psychology. In this, we covered certain branches of psychology. Like in general psychology, we are going to discuss the behavioral patterns of a normal human being. Second, child and developmental psychology, we are going to study the behavioral patterns of children's, that is up to age 12. Then in social psychology, we are going to study the behavior of the people who are living in the societies that belong from the different cultures, different religions, they have different belief system, different value system. Then in the clinical psychology, we are going to study the people who are suffering from severe mental disorders. Then counseling psychology deals with the people who are suffering from mild emotional and personal problems, or they may have some career related issues. Or in the other hand, this in the industrial and organizational psychology, we are going to work in an organization or with an industry, so that we can become industrial psychologist, to provide employee training for their interviews, management of the systems, to apply some psychological test. And then there was a branch that is called as animal and comparative psychology. In that branch, we covered that in this branch we are going to study the behavior of animals, and also we are going to do some comparison, how one human being is different from other human being, how one animal is different from another animal, how one human being is different from another animal. And this experimental and physiological psychology, we are going to study the fundamental processes of a human behavior, and to that we are going to conduct a direct experiment in the lab. We are going to do some researches, and to understand human body and mind in a better way, we are going to conduct a direct experiment. So this is all about today's topic. We are going to study the next topic, that is the methods of psychology, in the next class. So this is all about today. Bye bye, take care.